Good afternoon. I'm going to do a quick sound check to make sure everybody can hear me. Can everybody hear me okay? If you can, just give me a indication by raising your hand. Thumbs up. That's good. I got the floating thumbs up. Thank you for that. Um, all right, today we're gonna get started. There's a good amount of things on the agenda for today that we're going to talk about. So we're going to ask if you could put your questions in the chat for now. We'll have some time later um, to potentially open it up for questions, but we'd appreciate it if you would just put your questions for now in the chat. Um, other pieces of information, as usual, we'll be putting the PowerPoint slides on the shared folder that we disseminate, the Google folder that we've been using the whole time for information sessions. So we'll be putting that information out to you in that format. We are recording today's session, but keep in mind that it does take a little while for it to be closed captions before we go ahead and post that. So that's our information for today. So without any further delay, I'll pass it on to Sherry for some quick announcements.
Thanks, Peter. We will turn it over to Ask to give us some announcements from their group.
Sure. Thanks, Sherry. We wanted to share this opportunity. Hopefully you all know that SC Team Summer University, the registration is open. If you use your device to capture the QR code, it'll take you directly to the registration link. We encourage you to please share this throughout all your districts, to your special educators, your general educators, your administrators. We have some great sessions across all of our TA centers. Each of us are highlighting those on social media. You'll see a lot about that this month, and we really encourage you to send those who will benefit in July to attend this with us. I think I have a few more, Sherry, maybe. Yeah, so this is an at a glance of the sessions offered at Summer University. You'll see some span a few days. But again, if you go to the website linked on the first slide, you'll be able to get session descriptions on all the sessions. And finally, don't forget that the Academic Alliance is offering up targeted technical assistance through our co-op support. Our co-op support is 2 cadres, practices across the tiers and systems of support. Both of these, we will begin our foundational support at Summer University through that course, through that professional learning sessions that are offered. So you can follow the link when you get this PowerPoint to the Google folder for more information about our co-op. And there are specifics about sessions if you're interested in a certain cadre that you may want to sign up for. Always reach out to us through the Academic Alliance email address, Gmail, or the USC email address, and we can answer any questions for you. Or directly, you can contact me, Dr. Susan Thomas, or Jenny Saunders with any questions, and we'll get back to you. Thanks a lot, Sherry.
Thanks, Deanna, and we will turn it over to Skippy.
Thank you, Sherry. Hi, everybody. Just a quick reminder, you've probably seen this, but our Early Childhood Inclusion Conference is happening in October. Our exhibitor applications are coming soon, so stay tuned for that. And our call for proposals is open through the end of the month. So we really encourage everyone to consider submitting a proposal to share evidence-based practice with others to support the use of inclusive practices in early childhood and improved outcomes for all students. I will drop some links in the chat afterwards so that you all can access that information easily. We also, you can go ahead to the next slide, Sherry. Thanks. We also just released a new module for evidence-based practices and action. This is for the end of the year, and the goals for this are really to support positive outcomes for children transitioning to kindergarten, help students practice and generalize skills to foster positive behavior, explore the child outcome summary process process at exit from preschool services and facilitate the use of authentic play-based assessment and interpreting those assessments. So you can go ahead and use that QR code to register, and you can also check out our website to view this and our other asynchronous on-demand e-learning opportunities. And again, I'll drop that link in the chat in a minute. As Deanna mentioned, we're really excited about Summer University and excited about all of the sessions the SC Teams partners are hosting. A reminder about our Preschool Planning Institute. This is open to all districts. You don't have to be a current Skippy partner. We'll cover a lot of topics during this 2-day Planning Institute, specifically around systems thinking and leadership teams, using data, policies and procedure, codes of conduct. There's a lot that we'll be covering because it is 2 days, and we are hoping that you will all consider joining as a team, and your team can just be 2 people, but we want to make sure that you have other folks there to help you in thinking about how you'll implement some of the things that you're learning. Our partners at Pyramid Pieces are also hosting some sessions, but those are closed to districts who are pyramid model implementation sites. So if that's you, don't forget to register for those sessions. And 2 more announcements from our Pyramid Pieces partners. Available this Thursday is a new free online training module. This is all around understanding and preventing suspension and expulsion in early childhood settings. So really, if you're taking this course, it's going to help you to understand issues around suspension and expulsion practices in early childhood settings related to challenging behavior, and it will help your team to develop a policy to limit or eliminate the use of those practices in early childhood programs, and it'll provide resources in our state to assist you. And you can find more information at scpyramidpieces.org, and again, that'll be available on Thursday. And one more announcement from Pyramid Pieces. Just a reminder that we do have free access across the state to these 3 Pyramid modules. Sorry, I got a little tongue-tied there. But you can access Birth Through 5, Trauma-Informed Care, and Reducing Implicit Bias. And all of these are available for free through Pro Solutions. You would just need to set up a free account. And again, you can do that through scpyramidpieces.org. And all of these do offer CEUs for anyone who's interested. And if you have questions, you can just reach out to me. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Carrie, and Joy, you are up.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, everyone. And we just wanted to share information about a few things that are going on. We have set the fall conference as early this year, September 9th through 10th in Greenville. Registration, presentation, proposal, submission requests are out, as well as hotel room block information. That information can be found by going to the following QR code. And again, like Carrie, I will drop the links in your chat as well. And if you go into any of these presentations, they're all hyperlinked back to the hotel site and other information. This year's conference will have a focus on secondary transition and dropout prevention again. We're really excited that our new reformed statewide interagency transition team is going to take a front role in helping our local teams that are present to reestablish and set some goals and do some strategic planning for those local teams. And then the National Dropout Prevention Center will be with us again and providing content on dropout and also student engagement and how that impacts work and dropout prevention and transition. So I know that the time is tight when everybody gets back to school. So register now or get your POs in if you need to wait till the new fiscal year. All right, the next slide. So the second piece of our summer work is the Diploma Planning Institutes, and we're hosting 4 in conjunction with the Office of Student Services and the National Dropout Prevention Center. They will be on these dates and these locations. you should have received via email out of OSIS and also out of Avian Coleman's office this flyer that has registration information. These are local school-based teams to develop strategic plans for interventions with regard to dropout prevention. We hosted 3 or 4 last summer, and they were excellent. We had a great participation. If you're interested in knowing who has registered from your county or from your district, or if you're interested in putting a team together, please reach out to us. We're glad to help you. Those are general ed based teams that should have special education engagement, as we know our students are dropping out at a greater rate than the average student. So that's that. One of those, I should say, will be at the Summer Institute or the Summer University at the same site at the same time, July 16th through 18th. So that's a great opportunity to get content in more than one area, including dropout prevention. So the next slide focuses on the content that we're offering at Summer University. As Carrie and Deanna said, we're excited to be a part of this collaborative effort. We will be working with ASK to offer strategic instruction model training in a couple of content areas, and also helping to launch a professional developer cadre that will follow through that school year. So if you're interested in having your own trainers in one of in these areas, is a great resource for schools, a great resource for general ed, and for our teachers that are in ed support classes as well. High school, middle school, I think there's even some elementary school application here that would be very beneficial. But please reach out, register. And then we will also be offering content with the employability credential. If you have staff who need to brush up on credential requirements and resources and support systems, then this is a great opportunity to engage with others in the state, and also our trainers. Kim Watkins will also be there. And that will be a 2-day session at Summer University. And then again, the Diploma Planning Institute, one of those 4 institutes, will be hosted at Summer University. So I hope to see you there.
Thank you, Joy. And Stephen is up next with BASC.
Hi, everybody. We wanted to highlight from the Behavior Alliance of South Carolina one of the Summer University professional learning offerings that we are going to be providing. We've heard from lots of folks across the state that there is a need to support new educators in implementing highly effective classroom behavior systems. So we are launching a full-day professional learning opportunity for, as we are categorizing it, anyone who is in education for less than 3 years, or anybody who supports educators who have been in education for less than 3 years. That full day session is going to be focused on evidence-based, relationships-focused strategies that educators can implement tomorrow in their classroom. So we wanted to highlight that opportunity for all of you, and also note, I just dropped in the chat a link to our Summer University offerings from the Behavior Alliance, so you can see some of the other professional learning we are offering. I will note that we are offering a similar session for folks who are not new educators. So we are differentiating between new educators and educators who are not new. And then lastly, I wanted to mention that we are also providing an opportunity for follow-up support for new educators by launching a 5-part ECHO series. ECHO in Education is a virtual model for professional learning. We'll have a 5-part series that launches directly after Summer University to provide a community of practice for those new educators to really go through case studies, here's some tips and tricks to implementing those strategies in their classroom. And that series announcement will be made via our mailing list, which I'm dropping into the chat as well. So if you would like information about that virtual series, or perhaps you have folks who can't join us for the Summer University, we highly encourage them to sign up for our newsletter to learn about how to register and when registration will be available for that virtual professional learning series. We hope to see you all joining us for the Summer University or signing up for our mailing list in the near future. And please feel free to reach out at behavioralliance.org if you have any questions. That's it on our side.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you to all of our SC Teams folks for your announcements today. And Lisa, I'm going to turn it over to you for a special announcement.
Thanks, Sherry. Well, our standards for evaluations and eligibility determinations, RC, was passed on May 8th. We think May 8th. May 8th was that 120th day that it was over in the legislative process. The full education committee did pass it about 3 weeks ago, and we've kind of been waiting for guidance on when it's actually official. But Friday, as I got emails from some of my stakeholder team, they've been following it on the website. They let me know Friday that it finally said finalized on the state legislative website. And it will be officially posted in the state register on May 24th, which kind of makes that the official final date. It's now on our website. You can get it at the following link, or you just go on our main webpage, and it's in policy, and state and federal policy says SEED 2024. It will be required for the start of the 2024-25 school year. I mean, if you absolutely want to use it now, we're not going to stop you, but it's not required till next school year. We're getting some virtual training information. And Barbara is reminding me, they passed 43243.1, not the SEED. The part of the SEED, the criteria, the definition for each disability category and the criteria is the regulation piece that's in the SEED. But then, like every other SEED we've had late in the past, the evaluation components are guidance, but the criteria and the definition is what went through regulation. Virtual training information will follow. We'll do a training for directors, and then for school sites. We're going to offer some virtual training over the summer. We're trying not to, I know there's ed plan training. There's a lot going on in the summer, so we'll probably offer 4 or 5 sessions so that people could kind of sign up for whatever works good for them. I did let my stakeholder group know yesterday first, because they worked so hard on, working on making sure that our criteria aligned to research, worked for our districts, and they've put a lot of time and effort into helping with them. So I let them be the first to know. Well, they let me know first that it went through, that it was finalized, but the SEED went on the website yesterday. And so more information will follow. And Katie, I think it's all up to you now.
All right. So as we all know, we're getting ready to transition to a new IEP system. So some of the things we're going to discuss today are listed there. One of the things is a little out of order because of last minute change in our agenda. But we're going to be talking about the IDA supplemental grant award later on before we get to the dark transition period. So that'll be item 7. So it's just a little change. So I think the moment you've all been waiting for is our launch date. And I had a confetti popper, and we tried it, and all it did was caused a lot of anxiety because you have to twist it, and it was kind of like opening a can of Pillsbury muffins, and you don't know when it's going to pop. And then it popped, and it popped all over Sherry, and you couldn't see it. So I don't have anything other than this little rocket, and we're going to launch that date. And so the date is, Sherry, do you want to? July 8th. So that's it, July 8th. I hope that helps alleviate a lot of questions with that. I know some districts that start in July, that should hopefully help you with getting started and making your plans. I know I've been watching the timeline for some of our districts that start in July. And so that is our launch date. That is when we will be going live with EdPlan. So what does this mean for Enrich SC? Well, it's not going away exactly. So it's going to move into read-only access. And so the last day to make changes in Enrich is going to be June 14th. Jenny, I knew you were going to be super excited about that date. So the last day to make changes is June 14th. So you might have heard like the dark period is going to start June 17th. So June 14th is going to be the last day to submit that transition collection, and I'll talk about that. And so what's going to happen is whenever you push the button to submit the final transition collection, it's the one that you submitted April 26th, that's kind of your last day, and what we would consider when it's going into read only, because you won't want to make changes in there after June 14th or after you've pushed the button, because once you've made those changes, that's not going to migrate. That data is not going to migrate over. And so Frontline's going to need some time going into the systems to make them read only. They're going to be doing that the week of June 17th. You can go in and still access the system. You can print and download and do all those things. You just cannot, even if you can, even if it still lets you, you cannot make those changes. And so you should not be making those changes because you will lose data as it comes over. So an example would be if you make a student eligible on June 15th and you're able to do all those processes in Enrich, they will come over into EdPlan as a gen ed student because that happened after you had pushed the button after June 14th. So another big announcement that we have is that Access to Enrich, so we can finally give you this date. I know some of you have been waiting for this date, and it's September 17th. So OSIS state funded access read only to Enrich IEP management system is available until September 17th, 2024. Okay. So some of you might be doing contracts with Frontline to extend that, but we, they will prorate it based on what we've given them, which is that September 17th date. So what can you do during this read-only time? You can view, download, and print. You can run reports at the local level. You can print service logs. You can't enter information to create service logs, but you can still print those service logs. And then the acknowledgement forms for accommodations, modifications, and BIP. What you cannot do is submit state reports, and you cannot create or edit any actions or documents. So with that, the data migration, the transition collection. So you ran this April 26th, and again, we apologize for that last minute. We're under some very interesting timelines with timelines that we have from PCG, and then getting Frontline to meet those timelines, and then with delays. So it's been interesting to say that. So April 26th, we submitted the button. We're going to ask that you go ahead and submit again. We're going to do a second collection between the window of May 29th and May 31st. And then a final one will be June 10th to June 14th. And the reason that we're doing the second collection is because when we ran the first one, there were a few districts that had to submit tickets, and it took, for one of the districts, it took 2 weeks for them to actually be able to submit this. And we can't have that issue with that third and final time frame, because when you go to push the button by June 14th for the collection, we can't have any delays. So if 2 or 3 districts cannot submit for some reason, we can't wait 2 weeks for Frontline to fix that error. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a second submission to ensure that everyone can submit again. That gives us some time then before the the final push of June 10th to June 14th. So if districts have issues, we can get those tickets put in, we can figure out what's going on so that they're able to submit successfully that third time. Also, that May 29th to the 31st, we're going to keep that data. And so what will happen is we'll have this data, and June 10th, if you go to push and there's an issue and we can't get your final submission on June 14th, we can run and migrate the data from May 29th, that May 29th window. So it would be better than having nothing migrate. So it's kind of like a plan A, plan B kind of scenario. So we have the data from April 26th. We're going to get the data from May 29th timeframe. And then hopefully your most current data will be June 14th, and that will all go smoothly if we do these trial runs. And with that, Peter is going to talk a little bit about the difference between the working documents and what's coming over and those things.
So the data that Katie was speaking about was the data that's coming over, which is the, when we've talked about it before, it's the dynamic data that's going to come from one system to the other that allows you to do the work that you need to do in the system. Things like historical dates, evaluation dates, current IEP dates, goals, accommodations, the things you need to do progress reports and things of that nature. So that's the data in the system. Throughout this process, we've been attempting to also to migrate some of the PDFs that are generated in the Enrich system and that are included in the Enrich system. As we went through it, the extraction process took longer and longer and longer. And frankly, the extraction process was such that it was going to take an enormous time during the dark period and push us into the school year for most people, for most districts, potentially looking at more than 8 weeks of a dark period, which would render all our districts in a really bad situation. So, so the bottom line is that prior to launch, we will not be pulling over the PDFs. Another thing that was discovered along the way was that Frontline could only produce or extract for us at the state level enriched generated documents. So that meant that only those that the enriched system created itself, which would be IEPs, PWNs, things of that nature, but anything that had been uploaded as an attachment by an IEP team member would not be extracted and provided to the states. So what we've been able to do is we did talk to PCG and say, well, our districts do need to be able to put in their documents, at least the current documents, the current IEP in PDF form. And so we've talked to them about that will not count against your paperclip. So what we're asking is that districts, and it could be case managers or whoever you want to do this, would basically take the PDFs out of Enrich for the current year. So that would be your IEP if you have a current FBA or BIP, a PWN, a progress report, whichever is in effect now, that you can basically run that, download it, and take it out of Enrich and then upload it into EdPlan SC. As far as the remainder of the documents that are in the Enrich system, we are still working with Frontline to obtain from them, to extract from the Enrich system all of the Enrich generated documents that have been generated during the entire time that we've had it. So we're working on that process with Frontline. It's still unclear as to how long it will take. But that's as a backup to districts. But once again, that'll be Enrich generated. We are also working with some districts on, it appears that districts would have the capacity to run a query and pull all of the PDFs out of your system. And so we've had a couple districts that have had success with that, but we'll be passing along that information as well. What we'd recommend to districts is, and many districts have already started doing this, is to have a document storage system that's outside of Enrich. In other words, not using your IEP system as a record retention, but as a record generation system. It certainly is a better plan to have that as a backup. And we advised with Enrich, and we're advising again that EdPlan SC should not be your sole source for record retention. It is a document generating system. It allows you to do all the processes for special education. It allows you to generate all the documents, but it is not intended to be a sole source retention system. And I think there was a big shift, obviously, when districts went from paper to electronic, like most systems. The other part, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, is we do know that this is additional time and energy spent by districts, so we will be doing a supplemental allocation that Michelle's going to talk about in a little bit. So we're going to provide a supplemental allocation to the districts, and one of the primary use of that funds, would be, or at least one of the primary uses of it, would be to assist with anything you need to do to assist with transition to the new IEP system. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second.
So with that information, what do we expect to see on launch date? When we open up EdPlan SC, so what are we migrating? What are we bringing over? And this is the information that's listed below that's coming over. So the current goals are coming over, and then you'll be able to do progress reports, COAS. So any current student who has completed a completed COAS, that information will pull over. Looking at your event history, so you'll be able to start with those timelines right away. So as soon as we get in, you'll be able to start creating and developing IEPs and completing, special education processes. So we had some successful testing with our 5 testing districts for the data migration. And it's coming over, that information is coming over smoothly, and we're still working on that data migration actually throughout the end of the month as we pull it over to make sure it's coming over as clean as possible. And that's the information that we got from that April 26th transition collection that you submitted. So again, what you're going to be able to do from day one is all those processes to include, progress reports, creating service logs. And then at that time, we're going to have you upload and recreate the forms that you were using during that dark transition period, and then uploading the working documents, what Peter just talked about with that current year. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is this user type upload. And so if you were attended power user training, this was a big talk that we had, a big piece of that was how are we making all of those user types? How are we giving them the correct user type in the system? And so PCG is completing a one-time upload of all user types for districts. So right now what we're doing is the districts are going to need to complete a spreadsheet that's going to be provided to PCG. I believe Nick has those for us this afternoon, and I'm going to be having someone upload those into ADT under the file name EdPlan SC initial user type upload. You're going to complete that, and then you're going to email that to me, and then I'm going to provide that to PCG so that they can upload that. And so there'll be directions coming out to complete this process. I hope to have that for you tomorrow, the email and more information as to how that needs to be done and what that process is going to look like. And then it'll be due June 10th. So it's basically a spreadsheet with all the current district employees, and then you're going to select what user type they should have. And the next item that we have that's been a big topic, it's come up a lot during power user training, and then I've had a couple questions about it. And so we had a talk internally because, how are we going to look at contingency plans? So contingency plans are still required if there's an emergency school closure. If students, you're not going to be able to flip to another instructional delivery model, and they're not going to continue to receive those standards-based high-quality instruction. So what we're thinking is that many of your students, shouldn't need a plan. It's only needed if there's an emergency closure and you can't switch them to another instructional delivery model. And then there is not a contingency plan process like Enrich has in EdPlan. So we're going to have a form created based on the contingency plan process. It's kind of an Enrich with that information, but we know that districts have their own forms for contingency plans. So you can continue to use your own form. You can use the form that's going to be provided. And then you can upload that form into the student's paperclip feature in EdPlan SC as needed. And then Michelle's going to talk about the supplemental award.
Thank you, Katie. Good afternoon, everyone. As Peter and Katie mentioned, we will be allocating out an IDEA supplemental award. It will be a total amount of $5 million, and we base the allocations to each district on the same methodology used as the regular IDEA awards. The supplement is from the SFY 23 grant, and that is the grant that is expiring September 30th. But as I think Katie mentioned, everything should be completed by September 17th anyway. So that means your funds must be encumbered by September 30th of 2024 and expended by December 30th of 2024. The reimbursement deadline is going to be the same as it is with the regular SFY 23 grant award funds. That deadline is December 30th of 2024. Okay, so as Peter said, this is given to help with the transition from the IEP systems or from Enriched to PCG. So whatever you need to do, whether it's training or stipends or whatever, pay for to help make sure the system is done. That is why this is given. We know it's a short period of time. Peter definitely understands that. And that is why we are giving the funds to assist with this transition during this crunch time. If you don't need the funds for anything related to the transition, then feel free to use them for any other allowable IDA activities. But again, those activities must be completed by September 30th. Next slide, please. Okay, and so this is just a reminder, first in, first out, and this is true across the board with anything related to IDA funds. Please use your older funds first. So these funds that are expiring September 30th, please use those for anything you need to use prior to September 30th deadline, and then move into using your 2024 allocation. We do intend, we were thankful enough to get the GANs out of ART on yesterday morning. Our grants administrator, Fiona Wilson, as long as other members of the FGM team are working probably as we speak to get those prepped for you. And we hope to get those to you, if not this afternoon, to get those to you first thing tomorrow morning. So be looking for that either this afternoon, but no later than noon tomorrow. So what that means is that as soon as you can, please get those GANs signed and get those back, because the process in our grants accounting office is no funds can be uploaded into the GAP system for you guys to start budgeting until we get all GANs back. So we need all GANs back as soon as possible. And again, we want to encourage you to expend these funds that we're giving you now, because these are the older funds. These are from FY23 grant, and you need to get those expended because they do expire September 30th. Okay, and so just a few reminders regarding this. If you are using these funds for stipends, please make sure you retain the records, including signatures in receiving the stipends as support documents. If you're going to use it to pay personnel to do various transition activities, then make sure that time and effort documents are completed and signed. Sure. Mm-hmm.
Michelle, you've got some questions. If I don't want you to
Sure.
get too far ahead.
Sure.
I think there's a comment that, it's not a very long time to expend the funds, but how soon will the districts know the allocation?
They will know it either this evening or first thing in the morning, because they will receive their GANs.
Okay.
So Fiona and some of the FGM team are working right now to get those GANs. We got them out of ART yesterday. And so they are working to get the GANs separated out and emailed to you guys. So this afternoon or by noon tomorrow, you should receive your GAN and know what your allocation is.
Okay, and one more. Will there be more guidance on how allocations could be used?
Sure, if they need to reach out, but again, I guess the priority for the grant is, or the priority for this supplement is for districts to help, I guess, help make the transition a little easier. So if you need to hire some people or pay stipends, for weekend or afternoon work or summer work, then you have the resources to do that. However, if you don't need that, it's regular IDA use. It could be anything that you would use regular IDA funds for, um, salaries, um again, using this money up first, supplies, what have you, any other allowable IDA activities. But again, if you need assistance, please feel free to reach out to me or any other member of the fiscal and grants management team. Thank you, Lisa. Okay, so a few other reminders. Please remember that obligations for travel that occurs, it occurs on the day that travel actually occurs. So travel will have to occur by September 30th. So you'd have to be finished with travel by September 30th, but it can be paid and claimed up to December 30th, 2024. So that would be another allowable use of these funds. If you need to travel to a conference or something related to special education, then you could do that. But again, keep in mind that travel must occur prior to September 30th. Payment can be made between September 30th and December 30th for reimbursement. Personnel must have worked by September 30th. So again, the motivation for this overall is to help with the transition from one IEP system to the other. And again, I believe that is set to end about September 17th. So you should be done with that. So again, work occurs by September 30th, but it can be paid and claimed by December 30th. You can reach out to me or anybody on the fiscal team or even your CFO will be aware of these requirements. Okay, next slide. Okay, and just one other fiscal reminder while I have your attention. Just a reminder that for last year, the current year, 23-24, we were reminded of some non-competitive procurement requirements that were they were not new. They were not new at all. They were just being enforced. So just remember, we've been saying for the last several months that you need to plan for your procurement needs for next year for 24-25 right now. So that means, putting out any bids, requests for proposals or what have you, so that you can have whatever procurement needs for that 24-25 school year, you can have those in place. The expectation is that you follow your district's procurement policy and that everything is done competitively. And again, if you need to reach out to me if you have any questions, please feel free to do so. But we were very, very accommodating this past year and pretty much approved all of the non-competitive procurement requests sent to us. But the expectation is that you competitively acquire supplies or services and not ask for exemption from non-competitive from us. And just another quick reminder, sole source is one of those things you do not need to get our signature for in OSIS. You just need to make sure that you're following your district's policy related to sole source procurement and you have the documentation that supports that it is indeed a sole source purchase or the entity is sole source, and make sure you have that ready so if you're audited you can support that. But again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Thank you, and you should be receiving those GANs again today or by noon tomorrow. Thanks, Katie.
And Just a real quick thing on that. If you guys could keep track for the monies expended by districts on transition related activities for the IEP system, if you could just keep track of that for us, because we will be reaching out to ask for that information. So like I said, if you're using it for that purpose, anything related to transitioning to the new system, whether it's paying people, for their time, if they're, downloading PDFs from Enrich and putting them into EdPlan SC, or whatever you're using it for that might be related to transition, whether it's our document storage related to the necessary document storage for PDFs or any other information, just keep that because we will be reaching out to all the districts at some point just to ask what you ended up expending probably at the end of the year, just to know that. We also, Michelle's team can take a look at the records, but if you can keep track of that, it would be tremendously helpful for us.
And before you get started, Katie, on this next section, I had one question from the previous section. Just a question, are they only going to be able to see the goals? Are they not going to be able to see the services?
Sure. So when we try to do the data migration for the services, because there was 82 different instances of service dropdowns, there was services that were spelled wrong. There was services that aren't even services. And so when we try to do that, it was causing a lot of problems. So I think we discovered that pretty early on. I think I brought that up during EdPlan power user training. But during the office hours, Phil and Nick covered how to do the services. So the services won't be kind of in that workspace, but you'll still be able to log your services immediately. So they'll have to know what those services are with that Enrich IEP, but you'll be able to log the services. And that was the point of bringing the services over, was to be able to log them. So once we knew that we could still log the services immediately and not bring over, I'm just going to say, unclean data, data that was very, it wouldn't match the new service list in EdPlan, and what we're going to is just one state list, as opposed to everybody having their own list. So I think the main concern is being able to log services in EdPlan right away, and you'll be able to still do that. And if you have more questions about logging services, you can email me, but I would direct you to the office hours that are in EdPlan SC. There's a list of office hours that are the recorded sessions, and you'll have that information there. Okay, any other questions about that, Lisa?
Yeah, Katie, if you can explain, there's some confusion as to what is getting carried over into EdPlan now.
Sure. So what is being brought over?
You can go back to the slide if you want, Katie.
Yeah.
It had it listed on the slide.
I'm going to explain it as words and dates. And that's how I kind of had to wrap my head around, what do you mean? How are these goals disappearing? And so we're not we're not bringing over those PDFs right now. Those were not migrated over. And so what's moving over is your goals, posts, and then the dates. So I think Sherry's trying to find it for me. So those kind of key event dates, that event history, that's going to pull over, and it's going to pull over the whole history that they had through Enrich. And so this is probably good to go back to explain this. So when it pulls over that whole history, so if the student's been in, Richland 1, Richland 2, and let's just say Lex 4, and right now they're currently in Lex 4, when it pulls over that event history, it's going to be their event history in Enrich. And then once they start transferring to other districts, you'll be able to see in the event history where that information is coming from. But right now, it'll all pull into the where they're at and where they're located. Because otherwise, what would have happened is if it would have you would have had to request it from Richland 1 and then request it from Richland 2 to get it into Lex 4. And so when you look at the event history, you're going to see their whole event history, but it may appear or may look like it was all done within your district. And then once we start using the system and students are transferring, that's when you'll be able to see, and it'll indicate where they're transferring from or where that event was done. Okay, so the question is, what exactly do districts have to upload that will not already be there as part of the transition? So if you want to go back to that working document slide. So what we're going to ask, yes, unknown user, you'll have to manually upload the Enrich IEP. That's going to be considered what we're calling these working documents. Anything that's current year. So that's going to be the IEP, the FIBA-BIP, those PWNs, any signature pages that you have for this past year, the progress reports, current evaluations. You're going to want to upload that information because those are the things that you're going to need to have readily available as we work through, because that information won't be in Ed Plan. So I think we're good there. And we have office hours again on Thursday. And so we'll be ready to address, as you process this and tomorrow you say, well, wait, what does that mean? And so if you have questions, you can email me, but we do have office hours on Thursday. And so I'm sure we're going to be covering some of that information as well. Yep, I'll repeat. So what we're asking, the ask is that you upload from Enrich the current year documents, like the IEP. You need to mute someone. So if you can upload the current IEP and PWN and the meeting documents and signature pages and current, those current processes that have occurred this year. So that's readily available for those teams in Ed Plan. And what's really nice is that it's going to be until September 30th. You're going to have that, I don't want to say unlimited paperclip allocation, but that allocation, it will not start until September 30th. So they're allowing us to bring over that first year of data, this current year data, without it impacting the allocation that you were given. Okay. So you're going to want to really collaborate with your IT staff. Talk to me. You can have some teachers come in. I know in my district, what we did is we had, a person at each school that was responsible for uploading all of that information, and so that it was ready for us to use when we launched our new system.
So the answer is yes. No PDFs will migrate pre-launch. If we migrated the PDFs, given the timeframes that we've been given with the extraction, it would have put the dark period to last 2 to 3 months.
And so I would upload those by September 30th, because that's when you have the allocation for the paperclip open. And so I would give myself till September 30th to do that, so it's not impacting the current year allocations for your paperclip. And so I understand with staffing and you're asking teachers to do more. I would look at hiring those teachers that maybe, are looking for additional work throughout the summer. I remember being a teacher, and if you said, hey, Katie, we'll pay you a couple $100 to come in and just download documents, I would have been like, oops, sign me up, right? So looking at finding those staff members, and that's another reason why I think Peter and Michelle talked about this grant money, this award, is to try to help with that transition, because we know we're asking a lot. And so we're trying to look at ways you can be creative to kind of pay people for their time. Nothing can July 8th. Nothing can be uploaded until July 8th.
Yeah, and
July
it can
8th
be
is the launch date.
So there's two parts of the process. One is taking it out, and one is putting it in.
Right.
And we've run it with a lot, and it does take time, but I mean, if you're looking at 100 kids, you can do it quite quickly. It's just taking a PDF op and then putting it in. So
And we understand that-
and we understand, Fran, we didn't have this information until recently. So the bottom line is that we were counting on 2 vendors to fulfill what they needed to do to meet certain timelines, and the extraction is still, and
Happening.
it is still, we still haven't gotten the initial extraction for it. So,
So
but it will go into effect. Like I said, I mean, you'll have read-only access till September 17th. You have access right now to download, and then when you'll be able to upload starting July 8th.
okay, so we're gonna move into the dark transition period information. So looking at just kind of some general information of what these materials, these resources, these fillable forms are going to look like. They're not going to have any logo on them. They're not going to have the SCD or district logo. Your district logo will be in EdPlan, just like it is in Enrich. They're working on putting those into your sites now. So once we get through that, and I think, you know, we planned for the worst case scenario that it was going to take longer for this dark period. So we wanted to make sure we reached out to districts to talk about, you know, what will you need? And so we created that, but now that it's going to be 3 weeks, I don't know, you know, some districts may not have to use all of these resources, but they're going to be there for you to use to get you through this transition. And so once we are done with, you know, once we have launched on July 8th, we're just asking that within 30 days of your school district start date, that you get this information back into EdPlan. And that's so that you can make sure you can do those processes for those students that maybe were determined eligible during the transition period, but then also looking at the allocation for paperclip. Some information you're going to have to put in, some information you're just going to be able to upload. It just depends on paperclip allocation. So the paperclip allocation is how much you can upload for a student in EdPlan. It's quite a bit. That they've pretty much assured me that we're not going to run out unless you're downloading everything but the kitchen sink kind of situation. And so each district has an allocation, and we could talk about that again in office hours. Or if you have specific questions, I can send you a whole spiel about paperclip and how it works and how much you have and what that means. So PCG is allowing that upload until September 30th. That's another reason we said, 30 days from your start date, you're going to want to upload all of those forms that you used during the transition period into EdPlan to put that there. Okay, go ahead. And we'll come back and answer some of these questions in the chat as I get through this. So the location of these materials is going to be in the resources information widget in EdPlan SC. So it's where you have the train the trainer information now. It's under the title System Transition Materials. And it's going to be important to pay attention to the date at the end of the file. That'll be the date that I last uploaded it. So, or it was last saved, the final one. So it tells you when it was uploaded, and then I'm going to also put the date that it was the final one. So you can look and say, okay, this is the one from when she presented, or that's been new. So looking back at this, come back in before, don't pull them all now. I would pull them, closer to the time. I know there's 2 right now that I can tell you are not located in there, and it's the acknowledgement of accommodations. We are going to make some changes based on district feedback. They want it to look more like the one that's in Enrich versus like the one that's in EdPlan. And then we're going to do some development with the one that's in EdPlan. It just won't be till after launch that we can make that change. And the biggest change is that in EdPlan, it doesn't include where the teacher, the teacher's area, are they the music teacher, or the PE teacher, math teacher? It just has name, signature, and date versus enrich where it's name, signature, area, subject area, and then date. And so we're going to make that change on the form. And then there was some changes that we needed to make to the COAST form. The preschool IEP is in there. And then from the preschool IEP, I have the school age and the transition and the ISP drafted, but I'm waiting for some feedback on the preschool IEP before I go ahead and finalize those. It is a 23-page document. I can tell you that's pretty long because in order, I've pretty much completely have made a paper fillable form IEP system based off all these forms that have been created. So, okay, and then going to the next part of this. So each slide will kind of talk about what has to be done with the notification of meeting. So for notification of meeting, we know that it can't be created for a date in the past, only the day of and future dates. And so looking at that, we know that that's just going to have to be uploaded. And then there's going to be a contact log to document those attempts to notify the parent. So you're going to finalize an IEP notification. It needs to be created with the current date and then deleted by a power user after the IEP has been finalized. So you'll have to create one in EdPlan when we go live to finalize an IEP. And then the power user will delete that because your actual notification of meeting will be on this form. And Sherry's going to pull up the notification of meeting form. We're only going to show you this form and just kind of walk you through. So when you hover over it, it'll tell you what you need to put in there. So for this one, you'll see we're going to put the title of the district name, so the name of the school district. And then Sherry, oh, there you go. And then you're going to have to move it around just a little bit just because I had to make room for those longer named districts. And then looking through, Sherry's going to put her last name in. And then what we want you to see is if you scroll down to the second page, this will be there for you. So all the headers will auto-populate when you do it once. And then you'll be able to go through it. And like I said, it'll tell you like what needs to go in there. These are pretty much verbatim from what's in EdPlan. So that if you have to do it, if you have to recreate the event, all the fields are going to be the same when you go to re-enter that data to make it as easy as possible. And I did have several districts, I appreciate them providing feedback, reviewing all of the forms and looking at them to get these created so that you have them. So looking at that notification of meeting, real easy peasy, then you're going to save that and you're going to upload that into the student's paperclip. So into the student's documents in EdPlan when we go live. All right. And then we're going to go back to this. So we can walk you through the forms that are in there. I'm not going to go through each one. Let's just talk about what's available and kind of point out some important information. This is more of an information slide deck for you. So it's got, you should be able to go back here and say, okay, what do I need to do with this form? So go ahead and go to the next one after notification. So invitation of outside agencies, you're not going to recreate that. You're just going to upload it into the system so that you have it. Go to the next one. Contact log. This is a little different because there's going to be a couple different options. If you want to create those contacts, I'm going to have 3 different contact logs to do that as it looks in EdPlan. But then there's also going to be an Excel document that you're going to be able to just type that information in and then upload. That is just basically how it looks, and there's two options. So some people might want to put that in EdPlan, so when they run that report at the end of the year, all their contacts are in there, including the ones that were done during the dark period. And then option 2 is that you will sorry, I was looking at the chat now. So the ones that are, you can see option 2 is going to be actually inputting it into EdPlan. So the first option is the Excel spreadsheet and uploading it. The second option is looking at actually how it looks in EdPlan, making those parent contacts, and then putting that in there later. So I'm going to address the chat question. Sorry. I have all of the logos except for 2 districts. So either it came from your PIO officer, and I received it from them. And if I didn't receive it from them, then I emailed the districts individually. So the 2 districts have already been notified that I need theirs. And so we're good. So if I haven't been emailing you about district logos today or yesterday, I have yours. So you're good. Sorry. Additional evaluation planning. So if you're not proposing an evaluation, this might be a little change from Enrich. You have your document, you're going to complete that, you're going to say no, and then you're going to complete the PWN. So here's where you're going to have to make a decision. So if you're doing these initial evals, during this transition time, you're going to have to decide. You can either recreate the evaluation planning document in EdPlan to capture the data for reporting, or you can upload the documents using Paperclip into the student's file. So we'll go to the next one, and I think it's just if you are proposing to do an evaluation. So key for the evals, if the entire evaluation eligibility process is completed using these forms, it can all be uploaded and then created as an event. If you're only doing a portion of it, then what you're going to want to do is you're going to have to create those events in EdPlan to get it to finalize, to get the whole process done. So if you do all of it during the dark period on those forms, you can create it as one event. If it's just a portion, then you're going to have to go back in and recreate those. Consent for eval, so that's in there as well, and it applies this. You're going to see the same 2 bullets on every slide when it comes to evaluation, when you're looking at whether I've completed all of it or I've completed a piece of it. Okay. So initial evaluation summary results, that is on there as well. You can complete the form that's there, or you can create your own. That's fine. Okay. And then again, initial provision of services. So just looking at what that is, going back to, are you doing all of it? And we're going to have a, we'll discuss this during office hours as to how to create these events. We've already kind of talked about editing those key dates during one of the office hours, but we'll have some very specific materials for you so that when you go to enter a whole eval into EdPlan after we launch, we'll have directions for you to follow so that you can just edit those key dates and create that, create that eligibility event and qualify the student and then just upload all that documentation. PWN, we got to have those. So on that, one thing is to keep in mind, I've stuck 3 agencies on the form so that you didn't have to keep retyping agencies over and over. You can keep those 3 that are listed, or you can delete those and add your own. If you want to provide a supplemental document, if you want to provide more than 3, it fits 3. So you can keep the ones that I have, or you can add your own. The reevaluation process, that's also in there. Again, same thing as the initial. If you're completing all of it, then you're going to create that as an event and upload the documents. If you're only creating a portion of it, then you actually have to recreate each piece and then do that. Like do it as a process if only a little piece of it's done. So it's kind of an all or nothing. There's a revocation of consent there. If this happens, you're going to want to get that information signed, complete the form. The fields on this form are identical to the ones that are in EdPlan. It won't have to be recreated in EdPlan, and you're going to upload that. So we'll have to look at that. You might need to recreate it for, I think that should be recreate. Yeah, we need to fix that. It does need to be, it should say will have to be created and completed in EdPlan in order to and that student's eligibility. And because when they come over from Enrich, then they will have to, you'll have to end it this way. So we'll update that, but revocation of consent does have to be recreated. I think we just didn't take that bullet off. So transfer of parents' rights is also there. This can be completed form can be uploaded for the student. It's not required. It's just if you want to do that, you can, but you're going to use this form, complete it, and provide it to the parent. Next one. Authorization of release. You're not going to recreate this one. You can just complete it and provide it to the parent. This one. Medicaid consent form is there for you as well. You don't have to create, recreate this in Ed Plan. The consent date can be recorded by going to the student personal information page and clicking events, and you can enter that date that you've obtained consent. So this is really going to be depending on what your district policy is for this form. And the COAST, this form is the one that I said it's not there yet because we have some changes that we were making to it. And so we changed our form and then the changes didn't get quite done. So they'll be there later. And so we need to update it to make sure it looks like Ed Plan. But again, this form is going to be completed and then you're going to recreate that in Ed Plan within that 30-day timeline. And then if you want to upload it, you can, you don't have to. Comparable services. This plan can be uploaded and then you're going to recreate that comparable services plan and Ed Plan following your normal district policies. I don't think this will be needed. This was in case for my districts that were hanging on the, hanging right there where they may or may not have a dark period when they were in operation. So we created everything that we possibly thought we would need just in case the dark period extended, into those school district openings, but hopefully, it'll be minimum what you actually end up having to use. And the acknowledgement of accommodation, so that will be there as well. You won't need to recreate this in Ed Plan. Just follow your normal district policies and procedures about how you obtain these signatures and then where you store this. Progress reports, you might need an ESY progress report. Again, we didn't know what was going to happen, so we created a progress report for use during ESY or during the semester as needed. Thankfully, we're not going to be going, we won't be in the dark period while school is in session. And then the BabyNet transition, that information is there as well, following your normal district procedures, and then re-entering the data. And then the IEP and the ISP, like I said, the preschool IEP is in there now. So if you want to take a look at that, you can. But that information will be in there if needed. And then if you have questions or issues with any of the forms, you just contact me. So if you open it up and you're like, oh, I don't know this, I can't get this part to work, or I'm not sure how to use this, just email me with any questions about the forms. All right, and we'll look, I don't know, is there questions, Lisa, that we need to answer that are in the chat? Are we still talking logos?
Just some comments about, extending, the read-only and enrich. And just mostly comments.
Okay.
About that.
So we do have office hours on Thursday. So you can bring your questions there. I'll be putting out the agenda tomorrow for office hours and what we're planning on covering, but I know some of you might come with a lot of questions. Continue to email me. I'm getting back to you as fast as I can with answers and information. I know a lot of you are doing, getting ready to do or are doing trainings. So send me that information. If you have any questions or need anything, just let me know as we continue to transition. I know it's a lot. I know you have a lot going on. I know it's the end of the school year. My daughter's last day of second grade is tomorrow. So I know school is wrapping up and we're just very, very busy. So, yeah. So as you continue to need things, just let me know. And that's all, that is all I
And wait,
have.
Katie,
Oh.
I have one, because Greg's
Okay.
feedback, you're right. It was actually a question, not just a comment about extending Enrich for this school year. I mean, that's something, I don't know, Peter, that you'd want to talk about, because would that be?
Yeah,
I
we can
mean-
continue to explore options.
Mhm.
It's just, I mean, we can't make any guarantees now. I mean, the extension wasn't easy getting through
Yeah.
through September. So, we have to go through procurement. But it's certainly something we're willing to explore. But the other thing is that Enrich, our frontline, it does offer an extraction if you want to have them extract the PDFs. They've been giving some quotes to districts, and that's something you can use the supplemental allocation for as an extraction. People asked if if you could use it for the extension. Well, those funds have to be expended, so you would have to use those for more current expenditures and then use next year's expenditures if you want to continue the read-only access. So in other words, it would have to be first in. So as Michelle explained, since you would be paying for something that is in the future, you would have to use that year's allocation money, not the one that expires September 30th.
Who do we contact at Enrich for the extraction? If they were interested, who would they contact?
It's Sophia Mosley. I don't have her information. If somebody can post that.
Yeah, if somebody
firsthand.
has it, or they can email me and I can get them that information.
Yeah, it's Sophia Mosley at Frontline. It's
Right.
Frontline is the company that owns Enrich.
And I'm getting some emails about logos. I have all your logos. I have pretty much all the logos that I will say I have all the logos I really need for right now and that I can obtain for right now. And so you're good. If I haven't contacted you within the last 24 hours about your logo, you are good. And I would contact the power users. So we say that I've emailed power users if I still needed it. And so you're good. It went to the PIOs first, and then after the PIOs sent theirs out, I waited a little while, and then I reached out to directors and power users to get the additional logos that I needed.
And just a few more questions coming in. If they have current year documents available in this, I think we answered this a little bit up earlier, but if in a separate storage system, would they need to be also uploaded to Enrich? And I think, Peter, that answer was no. If you have another system that you can access easily, you would not have to upload them into EdPlan.
Yeah, it was answered in the chat, but yeah, I mean, if it mostly what we're saying is to get current working documents in there, so it would be available, you can upload it into EdPlan SC. And like I said, we got them to waive the paperclip for that time period so that districts could do that. But if you have a system where they can access it, that works too.
And Katie, one more question. What is the first year transfer process for in-state transfers when there has not been an IEP written in EdPlan?
We're going to put out some guidance about that. We're actually going to meet internally to discuss that further. And then I'll get back to the districts on that. So I'll be sending something out to power users about how that's going to look. Or covering it during office hour. Oh, and then Wendy has a paperclip question. So if you want to unmute Wendy and ask your paperclip question.
Thank you. All right, so I don't know enough about storage systems, but if we have unlimited access to paperclip until whatever that date is or whatever the terminology is, then after that time period, how is paperclip going to know like the amount of storage that we have after that time period? So then in another year, we're not charged for the initial storage of the documents. Is my question making sense?
Yeah, so it's annual. So you have every year you'll get a new amount. There's not rollover, so it's not like rollover minutes like back then when you had your phone and you're like, oh, my minutes rolled over each month. So that doesn't roll over, but you do get an allocation every year. There's a way to run a paperclip report, and so you can look at how much you have left, how much you're using, and then because we're allocating that based on student population at the state level. And then, yep, so once you get close, like you can run that report. They're going to be giving that, PCG is going to be providing me that report. So I can say, hey, Dorchester 2, you guys are getting really close. Like we need to look at this. I've held some back so I can figure out like we can have emergency purposes for that in case we need that. And then looking at those allocations and looking at, okay, do we need to purchase more? Are we good? But I've been told, and I know Phil and Nick are on from PCG, if they have anything to add, but I've been told like it's a lot of storage, like this that you've been given. And I think it was 14 documents per student, I think is what it was.
But now that we are putting all of our PDFs in there, like that's going to be in there forever.
Well, we're not telling you to put the PDFs, only current PDFs, not 10 years worth of
It won't
PDFs.
count each year. So what I put in this year, so what I put in between July 8th and September 30th won't count against 2024-2025 school year. And then what I put in there, once it's in there and they take a little bit of your storage away, I'm not repaying for that same storage every year. I see what you're asking now. Every year you get a new allocation and you've already paid for what's in there. They've already taken what's in there. So, you know, July 1st, we're going to get a new allocation. It'll start over.
Okay.
And it won't count. What you already uploaded won't count against you. It'll only be what you upload for that next school year.
Will you put that in guidance somewhere? Because I'm sure other people have that question that aren't on
Yeah.
this call.
Yeah,
Right,
and that
but-
makes sense. It's not really for storage. It's for uploading. So once it's in the system, you don't get billed again.
Right, they won't take it again.
It doesn't count towards. It's only how much you put in, not for storage. So
And Katie, I'll
that's a
just say
good point. Yeah.
There's a document in the resource information widget in the Training Return Toolkit called Paperclip, and it explains all of this and how to run the report, gives you screenshots on how to run the report and check all that information.
And I have a couple emails that I've sent to people about Paperclip, so I can send that out as well.
I guess, with all this recent information, my head's spinning. So I'm trying to think of other questions because we were of the mindset that PDFs would carry over. So that's where, when I think about not uploading everything on a kid's file, that makes me nervous because like every kid's piece of paper is very important to their, their program. But Peter, I'm hearing you say, correct me if I'm wrong, that we need another storage system for all the stuff. And then we need your guidance as far as what we should upload into EdPlan. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, so what you want to do is, we do want to retain all documents we have. We don't want to put us in the same situation we've been in, which is putting it in the IEP system and basically a vendor may or may not extract them. So what we're recommending is put into EdPlan what you need for working documents. All documents are certainly important, but we don't want to be using an evaluation or an FBA from 6 years ago. But you want to, but we're still working on extracting all the enriched generated documents from EdPlan. What we might be able to load in the future, we'll update you guys on in the future. The problem is finding times to do that because you'd have to do it nights and weekends so as not to jam the system so that your teachers can do their work during the daytime, during the work hours. So we're still working on getting them from the extraction. It's just they weren't able to be delivered in time from on a statewide level. So we'll continue to provide updates. For now, what we're saying is that we've been able to allocate some additional funding. We've been able to get PCG to agree that you can take your current working documents and upload it, but we would just ask you to focus on those to start, to download and upload into EdPlan SC.
All right, thank you.
And Kate-
Yeah, and I was gonna say, I know it's a lot, and I know you're processing, and if, you know, you're like me, you're gonna go home and you're gonna be like, okay, wait, what? What'd she say? And how do I do this? So feel free to reach out if you have questions at any time to me. But then also, like, we can cover some of this other information during office hours as well. You know, cover it again, cover how to do the services, talk about Paperclip again, and those pieces until we're comfortable with how this is working and how the process is gonna go. So don't hesitate to reach out. I know a lot of you have. So like I said, I will give you, if I have the information, you're gonna get a quick email from me. If I have to go searching for an answer, it might be a minute, but I'm gonna try to guide you in the right direction and make sure that it's a consistent message across the board as to what's going on with this process. So you know, we've been giving you the information that we have. I know it's like, you know, we got a couple days of school left, but this is when we're getting this information that we had to stop trying to upload or migrate those PDFs over because we couldn't have a dark period going into August.
And Katie, another question, will there be trainings on running reports in the future?
Yes, we are gonna do we're gonna do how we've done the webinar series. There will be another webinar on student transfers. That information will be coming out soon about the date and setup of that, and then another webinar on advanced reporting.
And will the read-only access be available to all users, including SPED teachers and providers? And will they be able to add any users while in the read-only period?
We can clarify that. That's a great question, Greg. We can clarify that, but it's my understanding that you guys control users, obviously, for Enrich. I mean, that's the way the system works. So whoever's in the system as a user will revert to read only. So you should be in that. So, and you should be able to control it like you always have. In other words, who has access and what user type they are. But the system itself won't have any ability to create or edit actions or plans.
And then
so Kelly got a little bit distracted. No, don't worry about your uploads. We're not worried about that volume. What I was saying was if we're going to do a mass statewide, EdPlan SC is a single system, unlike Enrich. It's not separated into different environments or housed on district servers. And so if we did a state massive upload of a lot of data at once, we wouldn't do it during the typical day because we wouldn't want to interfere with your operations. So what I was saying was that we're not going to do that. But as far as the uploads that you guys are performing, to put in the current working documents, we don't anticipate that load is going to cause any problems. I don't know, Phil, if you have anything to add to that.
No, that's exactly right.
And then just for FYI, so Sam, thank you so much. She must have contacted Sophia and she has an email she put in the chat for who to contact for a quote for the extraction of documents from Enrich.
And I don't know if there's any other questions. You know, we appreciate your time. We extended this meeting because we knew that there was going to be a lot of information shared. We were anticipating your questions and we wanted to make sure that we were getting answers to you. So we appreciate you doing that.
And I'm sorry about this, but one more question. So if teachers have view-only access, their access is limited to schools and the students won't be rolling to the next grade or school.
So we'll get clarification on that too.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is because Enrich Assess is still in there, I asked about the PowerSchool feed and thinking, I actually, one of the districts reached out and asked about the PowerSchool feed. And I said, my first thought was, no, there won't be no PowerSchool feed because it's read only. And then not realizing, well, with Enrich Assess, there will still be a PowerSchool feed. So let me connect with Sophia and Frontline to ask these 2 questions that we have, and I can get that put back out to you all. So looking at making sure, because I want to confirm that as well, because I'm not sure you can add users and change user permissions. You know, I would think so, but again, I'm not going to say yes and then it not work that way. So let me get that information from Frontline and put that out, and then also how that's gonna look when you know, you want to make sure that they're looking at the right students that they need, not their old students.
Yeah, I think the roll occurs first week of July, but we'll have to check on that to see if the roll, because the Power School feed will still exist. So we'll verify that. That's a really good question as far as the rollover, whether the rollover will take effect in both systems essentially.
Right.
It,
And I
it,
know
it will definitely for Ed Plan, because it'll be the current Power School feed. So whatever Power School says as far as the child's grade, that would come through to Ed Plan.
and so we had someone ask about the putting in tickets for issues with the Power School feed. If you'll email me that information. I know I've worked with a couple districts that were having issues with this and making sure that their tickets were getting answered in a timely manner. So, and looking at what the issue was. So if you will reach out to me, I will help you with try to help you or assist with you getting that ticket answered or getting that issue resolved.
Can any information be provided concerning Medicaid or 504, especially if you're a district that will be transitioning to PCG for those also?
I think we would need to know what specific information you are needing, and then I think that would come more from the PCG side of things. But if you want to reach out to me or to Phil regarding that, and he could put you in contact. Phil, is that how you want to address that? For the Medicaid or the 504?
Yep. Yeah,
Phil,
if they reach out to me, I can get them the help they need.
Phil, can you type in your contact information in the chat?
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat.
I think everyone has Phil's email. And I think that's all we have. Again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out and ask. Sometimes getting your questions helps me be proactive with making changes or helping other districts as well. We appreciate your time.